So we're going to back up a little bit to see, okay, last time we talked in chapter 2, the last place we looked was with the rebels. And we found out what was going on with the group as they ran into the rebels and found that Salva chose not to go with the men's group, and he actually ended up waking up alone, which brings us to chapter 3. So let's jump back ahead and follow our path to about where this would be. Now, let's go into our information and our questions to discuss for this one. Let's start over here this time to think about the story. In our orange font, it is important to remember that Naya's story does not follow the locations of Salva's story. Naya in chapter 3 is getting water at the waterhole. She hasn't gone far. Salva has walked at least overnight, if not longer. And honestly, longer. They did walk for quite a ways. Keeping in mind that Salva is now in a totally different location and a different time period. So just make sure we're considering that as we go back and forth. Let's look at number 2. When Salva arrives at a pond, he meets a woman and recognizes her Dinka scar patterns. He is relieved that she is from his same tribe. I want to stop before we go on. And if we take a look over here, we're not going to watch the video, but in this picture, right next to this person's eyes, we do see some scars. That is what we're talking about when we mean scarification. Later on, if you want to learn more about traditional Dinka scarification, how it happens, why they do it, patterns, things like that, you may have already done some research, but there's an article that you can get the address for in the description of this video. You can copy and paste it into another site and look at it. Keep in mind though, scars do come from injuries, so just be aware and be prepared as you do that, because they do show a picture of somebody after the scarification ritual. But different patterns of scars like this meant different things and may tell you what group they were in. So, again, Salva recognizes the Dinka patterns. Going on to the question here. Give some examples of how you can tell just by looking what group other students are from. Consider things like clothing and stuff like that. How might other students know what group you are comfortable with by looking at you? We all give out signals. We don't do scarification, but we have other ways of figuring these things out. Finally, let's look at number 3. Compare your first impression of the woman who let Salva sleep in her barn with your impression of her when she leaves. Does it change? Is it the same? When she leaves, do you think she's only thinking of herself or both herself and Salva? Why do you think this? And remember to use evidence from the text. Always go back and prove it. Is she trying to keep both of them safe? Is she only trying to keep herself safe? What do you think's going on in chapter 3? If you're using this as a group discussion tool, talk about it with your group, and each individual make sure to write down notes and thoughts that you had from your discussion. If you're doing this individually on your own, make sure you write down your thoughts and answers to your question on your Google Doc for credit. We'll see you back for chapter 4.